There's a supposed journal or flight log from Richard Byrd when he flew to the North Pole or beyond the North Pole, and then got some kind of a tractor beam which pulled his airplane down to a crystal city where he met some kind of a master race. Now, real quick, to help document topics like this, I've recently launched beyondthepoles.com. It is just a simple blog where I can keep a text version of this topic and have links to all the sources. So if you prefer to read and click on your own links, then head on over there. I'll typically be able to fit more information into the blog post than I can into the video. So if you Google for Richard Byrd diary, the first thing that comes up is a diary, a book that talks about this, and there's a lot of different PDFs and links about this secret lost diary of Richard Byrd. There's a book here from 2012, and essentially this book has just republished information which comes from this book, The Hollow Earth by Dr. Raymond Bernard. And I've got a PDF of the book here, The Hollow Earth by Dr. Raymond Bernard, 1964. And this is the earliest reference to the secret diary of Richard Byrd that I can find. And I don't like this typed text. Whenever I research a topic, I like to go to the actual source and get the actual journal from Richard Byrd. Here's pages from one of Richard Byrd's earlier journals from 1926. And I own all of Byrd's books, and most of them have his autograph. So I've become pretty familiar with Richard Byrd's handwriting and even his autograph. So on this book, I would much prefer to read the actual source of it. While researchers have occasionally asked for the documentation from these secret Byrd papers about his discovery of the Hollow Earth, nothing has ever been found or produced, not from Raymond Bernard, who seems to be the source of this information. Now, if there was such a journal with explosive information, I would assume it would be kept as a Masonic secret and not allowed on the internet. So let's look a little bit more at the diary, which supposedly comes from February through March 1947. And that's a big problem because February and March 1947 is when Byrd was heading down to Antarctica for Operation High Jump, which you can see took place 1946 to 47. The Armada arrived in the Ross Sea December 31st, 1946. So January of 1947, Byrd had just arrived into the Ross Sea for Operation High Jump. And then on March 5th, 1947, he did an interview with the Chilean newspaper. And that article is right here. We can see the 5th of March, 1947. February through March of 1947, we definitely know where Byrd was, and it was at Antarctica and maybe a little bit closer to Chile with his boat. But to get from Chile or Antarctica all the way up to the North Pole for his flight to the secret land, that seems pretty tough, even if it was, we're talking about Hollow Earth here, so even if it was Hollow Earth and he went into a hole at the bottom of the Earth, it's still quite a flight to get all the way through the inner Earth to where he would have been flying at the North Pole. So the date here doesn't seem correct, and we're going to come back to this newspaper article because it says some very interesting stuff. But first, let's look at this flight log from Richard Byrd's secret journal. It's also over here on this page right here, and he's flown beyond the North Pole and encountered some green rolling hills, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. And the controls of his airplane stop responding. He says he's caught in some invisible vice grip of some type. And then a message comes through his radio. Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. And he's talking with the master, who says, you are in the domain of Ariani, the inner world of the earth. Yes, my son, replied the master. The dark ages that will come now for your race will cover the earth like a pall, but I believe that some of your race will live through the storm. Beyond that, I cannot say. And there's a big problem with this sentence right here, because it's the master race who is speaking this supposedly in 1947. But if we look at the 1933 book called Lost Horizon by James Hilton, here's page 223 and 224 of the Lost Horizon, and let's take a read. My son, the dark ages that are to come will cover the whole world in a single pall. I believe that you will live through the storm. Beyond that, my vision weakens. And if we turn to Richard Byrd's journal, which took place some 14 years later, from 1933 to 1947, the master from the inner earth says, "My son, the dark ages will come for you and your race and will cover the earth, and I believe that you will survive the storm. Beyond that, I cannot say." So the master from this secret crystal earth has quoted Lost Horizon. So either he owns this book, or this whole thing is a hoax, and they just plagiarized Lost Horizon when they wrote Richard Byrd's secret journal. Now, given that this would be some kind of master race at the inner earth, I think that the guy would be smart enough to come up with his own words, and he wouldn't need to quote Lost Horizon. So overall, there seems to be absolutely no authenticity to this secret journal from Richard Byrd. But there is a connection, however, to the Roswell UFO incident. Let's take a look at when this happened. It was July 1947. So that is the same year that we're talking about right here. Richard Byrd went down to Antarctica in 1947 for Operation High Jump. And while he was there, he interviewed with this Chilean newspaper, and he warned today that the United States should adopt measures of protection against the possibility of an invasion of the country by hostile planes coming from the polar regions. This article is written in Spanish, so it's pretty easy to read. Richard Byrd is saying that the United States need to adopt measures of protection. Here's the Google Translate of it. Richard Byrd warned today the United States should take protective measures against the possibility of an invasion from hostile aircraft from the polar regions. So we have a warning for hostile aircraft on March 5th, 1947. Let's go April, May, June, July. So it took 4 months from Richard Byrd's warning to when the Roswell, New Mexico event happened. Now, supposedly it was a weather balloon, but the initial newspaper reports were a lot different, and they described it as a flying saucer. So I'm wondering if Byrd happened to find something like this, or some kind of other UFO, I don't know, and was warning about the possibility of an invasion of the United States by hostile crafts coming from the polar region. And it may or may have not taken just 4 months for Richard Byrd's warning to have come true, if one of the craft did in fact crash in New Mexico in 1947.